This guy you're talking to right now is the American Rivers Conference defensive MVP, Wartburg linebacker and Decorah High School graduate Keenan Tyler. And Keenan, I know you're more happy with the fourth straight conference title and the 10-0 record this year, but individually, how have you grown the most as a football player over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I've grown a bunch just coming in as a younger guy and learning from some stud linebackers in front of me. I mean, they kind of led the way. I've told you that before, but especially just this year, I moved to the middle linebacker and just every game just kind of progressed into being a better middle linebacker. And I mean, in this defense, it's easy to be a good player. I mean, we had a bunch of guys that were all conference, and it really comes down to just trusting your teammates. We have bunch of players that are capable of making plays. And then, I mean, as the season goes on, you just kind of see these guys who kind of step into a bigger role. And it's pretty cool to see them kind of come along and make bigger plays. And I mean, I think I kind of did the same thing at the middle linebacker role this year, just coming in and trusting my guys. And yeah.
Do you see it as kind of a team award, the defensive MVP? You wouldn't have gotten it if everybody else wouldn't have stepped up the way they did, as you just mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think all year, I mean, we don't look into stats and statistics that much, but I mean, we're a pretty highly rated defense, and I mean that's gonna help me get the award or whatever. And I mean, especially at the middle linebacker, the way our different defense works, it's the D line's pretty important for me. So having guys like Jake Walker in front of me, it's a lot more fun having him on my team rather than in high school having him tackle me all the time. So I enjoy having him in front of me, and just our whole D line. They're all the best D line we think in the country. So obviously that's going to benefit me a bunch.
And 109 tackles this year. I know you don't mention stats. It's my job to bring them up in this conversation. Obviously, that takes a lot of toll on a body like yours, and you're getting hit on plays where you're not getting credited tackles. What can you do to keep your body as healthy as possible, knowing the fact that you play a position that's going to have a lot of contact?
Yeah, I mean the way it's worked out, I mean, it doesn't really answer your question, but the way it's worked out going into the playoffs is we've had two buys here. We had a bye week at the end of the year, played BV, and then another bye week. So I mean, just for our team, and then especially benefits me a lot too. Just yeah, I've taken a lot of hits this year, and these bye weeks have been awesome. And then I mean, Danny Drees, he's a great athletic trainer. We love him around here. He's more than just an athletic trainer for us. I mean, he kind of keeps us going, and we like being in there, hanging out with him. And then obviously he's a great athletic trainer, and they get us right, and we're always in there working on our bodies. So yeah, I mean, it's been pretty sweet to have these bye weeks though, going into playoffs, get healthy, and yeah.
And how did you handle that bye week, knowing the fact that you didn't know your specific opponent until Saturday? What was the preparation like last week from a practice perspective? And is this week kind of a normal week of preparation for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was just last week was just work on ourselves, throughout the year, when things may not have went our way, it comes down to like little fundamentals that, we watch film and it's like, we know exactly what we're doing wrong. It's nothing, crazy or that the offense is doing. It comes down to us and just the detail that we have with our fundamentals. And so yeah, last week was just, making ourselves better, making, just working on those fundamentals and the little basics. Yeah.
And this defense only gives up 10 points per game from a yardage perspective. You're giving up around 270 yards a game. What makes this defense work? You talked about trusting your teammates, but what makes Wartburg defense such a highly effective defense? And it has been for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to coaching. It starts with coaching. Coach Cheddar, I mean, he's my linebacker coach. I have a bunch of respect for him, and the way he teaches the game of football. He's as intelligent in the game of football as anyone, and just the way we don't change what we do for anyone. I think we kind of have pride in that, and we prepare better than anyone else. I think, and it comes down to like I just said, it's the little fundamentals, trusting each other, just doing your 111th. And when you do that and play fast with a bunch of confidence, the defense seems to be pretty good.
And we talked about it from a team perspective. Four straight conference titles for Wartburg. You haven't or you haven't lost a conference game in 4+ seasons. And now, That just doesn't happen. Those are the results that we get to see from the outside looking in. But what goes into it to let you guys get those results?
Yeah, I mean, it's what no one sees. It's the fall camps, just kind of grinding away, and then competitive practices. I think our practices, they're competitive as anywhere, and the scout guys, the guys who you might not see on Saturday, but they're going and getting hit every day by starters, the best guys in the country. So you come in as a scout guy, and you're going against a great defense, great offense, and then 3, 4 years later when you're playing opponents, you're kind of used to it. You've been grinding away practice every day, every week. So when you get your time, you've been doing it and practicing like you have a big time role for years. So
And when you look at Wartburg's culture, there was about 200 guys on the roster, but the retention rate for Wartburg football is just outstanding. You guys, frankly, don't lose a lot of guys. How does that happen? How
yeah,
how does Wartburg football hang on to these guys? How are you guys patient enough to wait your chance, knowing the fact that if you put in the hard work, it's going to pay dividends in the long run?
yeah, it's the coaches do a great job building the culture here, and then it comes down to us older guys, and as a leader on the team, just building the culture and bringing the guys together, and it ends up after a couple of years, it really is it's a brotherhood. I mean, it's a family too. It's we hang out all the time. We're as close of a team as you can get. So I think when you're more than just a team here, you're more than just a player on the field. You are representing Wartburg football, and then when you have 200 guys that they truly do think like that, and it is rare. It is rare to have 200 guys that might not be the key player, or whatever, but they're all they think they're involved. They all have a role. At the end of the day, they do all have a role, and they feel that, and everyone's treated as family here. We're all a brotherhood, and so that's what does it.
You became the fourth straight Wartburg Defensive Player of the Year in the American Rivers Conference. Is it a little case of your defense having a mentality of, hey, the standard is the standards. This is what's happened before with some pretty good defenses. We need to be at that or at a higher level than in years past. Is that the mentality you guys have?
Yeah, I think 2022 they set a standard that, I mean, obviously no one wants to lose that standard. I think the standard is that you play football at Wartburg, you play defense, you're going to be the best defense, and you're going to be a heck of a player. And I've said it comes from right when you get in here, right when you get into the program, just kind of grinding away, and these little basic things that you might not be great at when you come in, you're going to get good at throughout your 4 years here, and it's all going to come together, and you're going to be a part of a good defense.
2 years ago, you got to play with Owen Grover, and he was the two-time defensive MVP in this league, and he was the defensive player of the year on the national level 2 years
Yeah.
ago. What'd you learn from him?
I just the way he approached the game. I mean, he's as competitive a guy as anyone, but the way he kind of approached, pushing teammates in a way to, he got everyone to kind of follow him. He's a tremendous guy outside of football, a great guy in football, and everyone wanted to follow that guy. So just the way he went about the game too, and I mean, he made a bunch of plays on Saturday, but he truly did prepare harder than anyone else. And he was the guy in practice that he was more tired than anyone and just warming up because he was going that much harder than everyone. And just little notes like that I my first year here, I would see that and be like, all right, that's how you do it to be a good player. And then just the way he studies film and everything. I mean, he did everything like the best player in the country, and that's what he was. So
And with the standard guys like that have set, do you feel a sense of responsibility to pass that message on to some of the younger guys that might not have been around the program as long as you have?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, just coming in, you get to look, you see some new faces during camp, and you kind of take, for me, I'm a linebacker, and I take the linebackers under my wing, and I want them when I come back and support Wartburg football in years to come. I want them to excel. I want Wartburg to be the best program in the country too. So I got to do my part and helping them out, and yeah.
And cut last couple of years, you've been a part of playoff runs. Last year ended a little bit sooner than you wanted to. 2 years ago, you made it to the semifinals. How hungry is this group to keep that standard of Wartburg football going?
Yeah, we're as hungry as ever, and really it comes down to just one week at a time. We play Wheaton. That's what we're thinking of now. We had the bye week, so it's kind of hard not to look at the bracket and come to all these conclusions. But at the end of the day, we got Wheaton this week. It comes down one week at a time. We'll figure out the later weeks after we beat Wheaton. But I think this group is as hungry as ever. We all know the standard, and yeah.
And I know Coach Winter always talks about nameless, faceless, and we're going to go out and do what we do, no matter what the opponent is, and the standard has to be that. How does that work in the playoffs, knowing the fact that you want to get ready for a certain opponent, knowing the fact you want to have as many advantages against that certain opponent as possible?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously going to watch as much film as we can, and we're going to have a pretty good idea what they're doing. But at the end of the day, like I said, throughout the year when teams, they did score on us or whatever on defense, at least, it came down to, we watch film and we see that it's our little fundamentals that are the problem. And it sounds kind of cliche, but when you look at it, that's what it is. If we play to the best of our ability, we got some guys on this defense that, they're good players. So we just kind of do our job. It's not going to matter who we're playing, and it's going to end well for us. In the playoffs, the margin for error is just a little bit smaller, so it's just practicing with kind of an edge. Every week you say, nameless faceless, but it is the playoffs, so you go to practice with a little edge to you, and it's win or win, or the season's over. So everyone should have a little edge, and it's going to be fun.
And this is my perception from the outside looking in. How mad do you guys get as a defense when you give up points? Because it doesn't happen that often.
Yeah, I think as a team, it definitely bugs me. I think even just some first downs bother me because I know it's something that we did wrong, and the offense is always going to make plays. As an offensive coordinator, you're drawing up, who's going to block who, and you're drawing up to beat a defense too. So the offense is going to make their plays, but it just a lot of times it comes down to just us making little mistakes, and which we don't do often. We don't do it often, but so when it happens, it just kind of it stings a little bit, and that's kind of what I love about this defense too is there's 11 competitive guys out there. I'm as competitive as anybody. So one first down, I think, bugs me a little bit, but you don't got to say nothing when you got 11 other guys that are bothered, and I know they're going to go make a play on the next play. So,
And when you look at what you've done on the football field, you've obviously excelled there, but second straight year, you become an academic all-conference performer. How are you balancing standing out on the football field as well as standing out in the classroom? Because you're obviously doing it pretty well. How are you getting it done?
yeah, you said we have 200 guys on the football team, but that means I have 200 buddies to go to class with. So every class here at Wartburg, I'm with a bunch of my friends, and we can get together and help each other out as much as possible. I don't think I've ever had a class without one of my best friends in there. So just being able to have that ability to bounce ideas off each other, work with each other, that's definitely helped me. And then just being in football too, it just makes you active. You're always doing something, and it just you go throughout the day just with school and football, and you just kind of get in a routine. And I've been in that routine for a couple of years now, and yeah.
And you got quite a few former Decorah Vikings on the roster as well. How are those guys progressing as you look at practice day in and day out?
Yeah, yeah, they're doing well. I think they've been kind of battling some injuries too. They're all doing great though. I mean, Ben, he's doing well. Andrew, Dakota, but yeah, really for them, it's just a couple injuries that kind of take them back a little bit. But they're gonna have their time, and they're gonna be some good players for us for sure.
And what's it going to take to make sure this run can be as long as possible for you guys?
Yeah, just showing up every day with a little edge that, like I said, margin for error is it's smaller in the playoffs. So just showing up, just playing the best of our ability. Everyone knows that. You don't got to tell anyone here, and just play the best we can, and we'll do well.
Well, Keenan, congrats on the individual recognition, defensive MVP, academic all conference this year. But I know you're focused on putting your team in a position to win some football games down the stretch. Congrats on a great season to this point. Hopefully, it can become even greater here in the month of November and December. Best of luck to you.
Yep. Thanks, Darren.
Keenan Tyler, linebacker for the Wartburg College Knights, the defensive MVP for the American Rivers Conference. Wartburg hosts Wheaton this Saturday at noon at Walston Hoover.